the Mets. Greet the Mets, step right up and lose your mind. That's exactly how I'm feeling right now, Mets fans, because how can I feel in any other way, okay? At first, it was easy for me to push aside what was going on with this absolutely terrible, far from amazing team, knowing that I was expecting this team to roll over and die every single time. But today, everybody, in tonight's big live show, we have to break down the simple fact that the New York Mets, on a day where Noah McLean gives you yet again another masterful, dominant performance. He's carving everyone up in their mother. It's not even the first outing he's had this year where he gives you 5 perfect innings. So what do you get? Of course, he blows the lead late because the Mets do nothing with their offense. Francisco Lindor with a bomb in the third gave you something of electricity there at Citi Field. It's a second deck he shot. It's high, it's far, and it's absolutely gone. What do the Mets do after that? Absolutely nothing. Their offense is a surprise to nobody, rolls over and dies in a day where Marcus Semien is at leadoff for you today. Of course, can't record a hit. This Mets lineup top to bottom couldn't do jack except for the jack that was hit by Francisco Lindor in the third. Then you see Noah McLean give up a bomb to one of the best hitters when healthy in Byron Buxton. Newsflash, good hitters are going to hit really good pitchers. But even then, Noah McLean still gave you a masterful performance, a Jacob deGrom-like outing, if not greater. 5 strikeouts, 3 earned runs across 6.2 dominant innings of work. Far from the problem for the New York Mets today, but of course the problem yet again lies with the Mets not hitting enough and the pitching getting exposed. After Huascar Braziban gets the job done in 1.1 shutty, it's Devin Williams who can't record a single effing out. I was able to play somewhat devil's advocate regarding Devin Williams when we saw him get rocked his last outing because he hasn't really pitched in any games to actually be in a closing spot, which is what he's supposed to be doing. It is now going on basically 2 weeks to an exact 2 weeks now since the Mets have won their last ball game. So Devin Williams has not been in a closer situation in 2 effing weeks, and I wasn't shocked to see him get off to a little bit of a rough start today. Walking the leadoff batter is never good in a tied ball game, but to see Devin Williams allowed bases effing loaded, no outs, and cannot get out of his own mess before Carlos Mendoza comes in, knowing the pressure's on his shoulders more than ever as Mets manager. You know it, I know it. To see him not only take Williams out of the game, but Austin Warren comes in, a man who was just recently called up, has been good in limited sample sizes. He gets MVP chance by Mets fans tonight to the select few that attended Citi Field's game because, listen, Austin Warren is the highlight of the New York Mets right now. This is not a slight on Warren, but this is a reality. The bar is so effing low for Mets fans right now, it is beyond comprehension. Offensively, again, you do nothing, you do nothing, you do nothing, and you do nothing. Listen, Juan Soto is returning to this Mets lineup tomorrow. I hope that he's not being rushed, obviously returning from injury or anything along those lines. But the Mets have lost 12 consecutive ball games since Juan Soto has been back playing for this New York Mets team. 12 consecutive losses now puts them not only in no man's land, but they have now entered a territory that few, if not none, at the major league level have been able to overcome. Losing 12 consecutive ball games and a season and still making postseason play. It was one thing to look at the Mets and say, you know what, they lost 11 straight and they still have an opportunity to make postseason play. 3 teams in Major League Baseball history have done so. The Cleveland Guardians last year lost 10 consecutive games in a row and still made playoffs in the expanded wild card. We know these things can happen, but the Mets have yet again now entered a territory where if you didn't think that the Nails were in the coffin on this season, I don't know how much I can really look at you with a straight face and say that, okay, it's going to be optimistic. Right now, they are continuing to find every which way imaginable to lose. And this is just not only bad baseball, but this is bad leadership. This is lack of unity. This is lack of identity. A broken record every single night talking about this godforsaken shit show that you call ball club, okay? I can't hold anything back, regardless of the fact that not only am I talking at here, I'm a diehard fan. I'm an on-field reporter, but I don't care. The fan cap is above all when we get to the point of the Mets playing this bad for this long. I can only come on this show here so consistently, so often, and give you a straight face every single time and say, you know, things are going to be all right. You know, when I first started this platform and the inception there of Steve Cohen becoming the New York Mets owner, entering the 2021 season, it was valid to have blind optimism. It was completely justified to have blind optimism because you have a new owner who's willing to spend and you have a lot of change, a lot of turmoil happening in a short period period of time. You gave benefit of the doubt year after year after year. Well, I'm sorry. Okay, this is now year 6 with Steve, who I really appreciate from an owner perspective when it comes to spending. But what I'm not appreciating yet again is it truly feels like there's a continuation on a lack of accountability held by the New York Mets. And I understand Devin Williams didn't have it today. He was poo-poo. He was garbage. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I understand this is the Yankees fans and their version of a World Series right now because this is the closest thing that they're going to find themselves getting. It's been a while since obviously going all the way back to 09 or so, and I hope that I don't get my teeth kicked in by the Yankees winning the dance this year, but we'll just have to wait and see on that one. What we're also going to have to wait and see on is David Stearns being competent when it comes to making rash decision-making, okay? Was Carlos Mendoza at complete fault for everything today? No, of course he wasn't, but it doesn't change the fact that something has to give. You need to do something, okay? No McClain here, obviously. He went just under 100 pitches. I didn't think it was a bad pull. I was fine with it. Obviously, Brosban did his job, too. It's Devin Williams not doing his today. When I understand Devin Williams can be pulling at Edwin Diaz 2019 or just Edwin Diaz 2020 as well, where in non-save situations, Buddy was absolutely horrendous. I mean, he was bad in save situations to begin with, but especially non-save, you couldn't pitch him out there. And Devin Williams now, for another outing, his third consecutive, has looked like absolute garbage. So not only do the Mets have a bit of a conundrum already with their closer spot, even though he hasn't been utilized in the closer role, but the Mets trying to find ways to win, trying to find an ability to snap their losing skid. They continue to find every single way imaginable to lose on a different nightly basis. I mean, it's... Again, we are reaching no man's land in a way that is so hard to wrap your head around this early into the season. It is absolutely pathetic. This is, again, we're talking about an offense that's essentially the worst in baseball right now. We're talking about a team that is literally the worst in baseball outside the Kansas City Royals. This team is pond scum, okay? You know the Simpsons meme where you're seeing that gif of that kid that's like, stop, he's already dead, referring to like a fight that's going on, something along those lines? Well, that's literally what's happening to the New York Mets. They have literally been on the side of the road. They were hit 2 weeks ago. Not only have the vultures already gone most, but there's still some carcass there. It's nasty, it's stinky, but the point is it has rolled over and it has died. And that is what I see in this New York Mets club, sadly, on a daily basis as soon as they face a sliver of adversity or do anything right for a period of time. Because what do they do wrong with the people that they get things right with? In Lindor and McClain tonight, for example, you're getting no one to pick them up around them, okay? It's all about me, myself, and I, okay? There is no unity. Again, there's no aspect of this club that you can watch from a fan point of view, let alone even a reporter point of view, and really come to the conclusion that this team is a really tight-knit group right now. This team is reeling, is what they are. They're pressing hard as hell, and they're continuing to lose. So yet again, David Stearns, my question to you, my friend, and if I ever get a chance to ask this in a presser, I will, if obviously the circumstance is similar by that point. The simple question is, where's the bar for you, David? How much longer do we need to wait until something happens here, until something gives? Are we just doing this waiting game until we win again? Are we just hoping and praying that Juan Soto saves the season even though you're already 9 games below, pardon my French, kiddos, fucking 500? Like, where is the bar for you? Because last time I checked, having a payroll north of $400 million entering a season, that alone should justify there being a bar and a leash that isn't unbelievably long for people that don't have track records of success here. I get it, he's your handpicked guy, but you're trying to save face right now in the worst way possible. It's blowing up in your fucking face. It's the same thing that we've went through before, okay? This is a continuation of mid-June onward last year. How much longer do we need to wait for you to do something to try to spark this club? Do we need to wait until we're 20 games below 500? Do we need to wait until everyone imaginable that has season tickets is doing their best to try to get some form of refund? Where is the bar? Please enlighten me. This is such bullshit. Every single night, it is the same turnout, time and time and time again. Enough of me pushing aside the emotions. Again, it's been easy to be even keeled about this team because they have been expectedly dog shit on a nightly basis for north of 2 weeks, but the Mets, yet again, managed to find a way to get under my damn skin. That's not only by rolling over and dying after you had the off day, you can't use the damn excuse that, oh, we've been so beat up lately, the schedule's been, I get the West Coast trips have sucked. It has is bull. It is absolute BS. So you have to go out west 3 separate times from San Fran to Anaheim to LA. It's nonsense, and they're screwing us with that schedule. I don't blame you, but you're still having off days. It's no different than what other teams go through, okay? No team's going to feel sorry for you. Medi will say a post-game. Lindor will say a post-game. But regardless of them not feeling sorry, this team looks like an exact club that isn't really grasping the reality of their circumstance, okay? I understand you're pressing. You're feeling the pressure. You're rearing right now. I get that. But having said that, where is the sense of, I don't know, try to do something to make a change, going back to not only what your game is, but playing loose. You got to play loose. You got to play fun. Nothing about this club is fun right now. Nothing about them is loose, except for Lindor absolutely having a piss missile that was right in his wheelhouse, okay? Lindor's been picking it up with the bat lately. We know this, and we can't fault him for that. That's been an encouraging sign. Having said that, though, there isn't all that much else encouraging about this New York Mets team right now. So we're going to talk more about this. We're going to get into more about this ball game and how exactly unraveled, how bad it got. We're going to get to your donations here in a second, but I need to ask everybody watching live on a replay right now. Again, the Mets have lost 12 consecutive ball games. Is their season over? I'm going to continue to ask this every consecutive loss because you know why? We're reaching closer and closer to that reality if we have not done so already. Let me know. Is this season already over? 9 games below 500, 12-game losing streak. What are we? 9 games out of first place there in the standings? I'm sure we're close. I'm sure it's absolutely terrible right now. The Braves continue to win. Color me shocked. And going from last year where the Braves season was over the first couple weeks to now seeing the New York Mets season looking over the first couple weeks, we're not allowed to have both of them playing well at the same time unless it was that 2022 circumstance. And speaking of 2022, what is one of the reasons that I don't look back on 2022 fondly, regardless of the really fun first half, regardless of the combined no-hitter, regardless of Jacob deGrom's dominance at home and a multi-game series against the Atlanta Braves where I believe the Mets took 3 out of 4, it's because that same season was the last time the New York Mets lost 12 straight ball games, okay? And it's disgusting. When the Mets have that kind of losing skid, and they just rolled over in the second half, rolled over after Marte's injury to Mitch Keller in Pittsburgh, rolled over in Atlanta to lose the division, rolled over at home to get curb stomped by the Padres in the wild card. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I really don't. So let's get to some of these comments. I know that you guys are spamming it in here. Thank you so much for that. Shout out real quick to our amazing sponsor tonight, that being at Prize Picks, that has you covered for everything here in sports fantasy, folks. Prize Picks, let me just pull it up for you guys right now because I did do my plays pregame today, and most of them did well, except for me being a schmuck and having Marcus Semien. So as you guys can see here, this was tonight's Prize Picks lineup that I personally built. I had Marcus Semien there, more on hits that we were looking for. He did not get that. And lead off, I know McClain more on Ks, and McClain did in fact get that because McClain's a dog. Back-to-back times I played him in each of his past 2 starts, and he got exactly what I was looking for on more on Ks. He had 10 tonight. He just needed more than 6. Jeremiah Jackson, former Mets minor leaguer turned absolute stud for the Baltimore Orioles. We took more on hits tonight, and Jackson Merrill more on hits. The Merrill situation is still ongoing because that game is happening for the Padres. The Orioles are currently in the 8th inning. Let's see if Jeremiah Jackson got his hit tonight. Did he? Yes, he did. Jeremiah Jackson, another consecutive game with a hit against the Royals. So he did his job, and the Padres are only 6 innings in. Let's see. Did everything do it? Jackson Merrill is yet to record a hit. So right now we're 2 for 4 on our plays. So if you guys want to get in on the action, not only is Prize Picks officially legal in the state of New York, it's live there in the state of New York, everybody. So make sure to check them out in case you guys have not done so already. They're having a fantastic time with their campaign right now. Join the millions of users today to get in on not only daily picks of lives, projections, but everything else in between. All you got to do is download the Prize Picks app and use the promo code HMA, link down below in the description. Get $50 in laps after you place your first $5 lap. Again, that is promo code HMA to get $50 in laps after you place your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is going to be right. And sadly, yet again, another night, another day, another dollar where there's simply nothing right about this New York Mets team. Not surprised. Not only am I disappointed, I'm disgusted. I'm floored that we have somehow gotten here this early in the season, genuinely. And I don't think it's an irrational take to have that. And I think the fans that have called it out from the start that this Mets season was over, before it even began with the roster construction, I can understand levels of concern. I can understand levels of pessimism. I can understand being cautiously optimistic, all those things. But what is really hard for me to understand is the people that really headed into the season and thought genuinely genuinely and honestly that this Mets team was going to be this bad this early, okay? Unless you are like the internal pessimist, no matter what, like Frank Fleming, there are very few that really go about their fandom in that manner. It's usually toxic more than anything. So I was doing what a lot of fans and a lot of other talking heads have been doing, is seeing what we like and see what we don't like. And there were things I did like from this past offseason. I still do. I think a massive wrench in this is the lack of Juan Soto. It's the fact that Jorge Polanco's been non-existent since the season started because of injury, and we were idiots and waited 2.5 weeks to put him on the injured list. I think of the lack of unity and identity with this club, and how much would that be different potentially if obviously the Mets either had someone else at the helm right now or just had more consistent winning happening earlier instead of them absolutely reeling the way that they are. Dave with the $5 great member, and Fred here, Fire Mendoza already. Tell me how you really feel, Dave. Thank you so much for the donation. Mark Brooks, great member, $2. I'm begging for the victory song. I know it feels like it's been decades since we played the WardyNYM postgame show song, which sucks to say. Jonah with the $2. Who else saw a Williams meltdown coming? Not Mendoza. That wasn't Mendy, but that's not the point here. Where the hell is the offense after Lindor smokes that in the third? Where is it? Seriously, where is it? It's nowhere to be seen. That's where. Dave with a $5. Thank you, Dave. Beat the Mets. Beat the Mets. Step right up and beat the Mets. Beat the Mets. Oh, beat the Mets. Beat the Mets and beat the Mets because of beat the Mets and being the Mets. You could do it for the entire song. Anthony with the $2 holla. This season's over. We will never be good again. Never is a strong word that I thankfully can disagree on, but I understand the pessimism currently. Thank you for the donation, Anthony. Malvar, $50 holla. Thank you so much for that, my friend. That's very kind and generous of you. Seriously, thank you so much. Wardy, you called me out a week and a half ago when I said this team was giving off 1993 Mets, the worst team I can buy vibes. At least that team was 8-14 through 22 games. I never thought I was going to experience that all over again. I'm so sorry, Malvar. Again, in fairness, I think it was justified to not want fans who jump that far ahead that early with what's going on this early with this team. You know, my positioning on the club has obviously changed with the continued lack of winning. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat it, and that's why we haven't sugarcoated it over the past week. But here's the thing. Even me not sugarcoating it for a week straight of losing games doesn't change the fact that there was still another week of losing games prior to that where I wasn't as pessimistic initially. The pessimism really started to kick in once we got to about 5 to then 6 games is where it's like, okay, now we have ourselves a problem here. And then to lose another week's worth of games after that is absolutely putrid. Malvar, thank you for the donation. I really appreciate that. And you were right, my friend. Sadly, you're looking like an absolute genius right now. So I should be the one giving you the 50, not the other way around. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate you a lot, nonetheless. Lady J with the $5 holla states the following. Just don't get why Stearns has this love affair with players who were injured or awful this year before. I mean, this is part of the mindset going back to his time in Milwaukee. But this is where he's, failing to meet expectations with the Mets because he's given the payroll, he's given the dollars, and he's not running within the way that they need to run it. They could be spreading the wealth on dollars in a greater way than what they're currently constructing. And that goes without saying. He's missed the mark on plenty to this point. Jonah with the $2 holla. It's time to bring back the Lenny the Lobster. Sadly, Jonah, I'm not allowed to use Lenny the Lobster until the Mets actually do this thing called winning. So that is on pause until further notice. But yes, Lenny the Lobster, I would love to break out sooner rather than later. I would love to do the lobsters, even though I felt like that's something we should have kept in 2025. You guys let me know in the comments to our live viewers who watch our post-game live shows throughout the summer last year. I started dancing with the fake lobster throughout our win celebrations. If you guys think we should bring Lenny the Lobster back, let me know in the live chat in the comments down below. Alfredo, great member, $2 holla. How long are we going to keep this doing this with Beatty and Vientos? Probably until the trade line, which is already too long. Ryan Davis, $5 holla. Thank you, Ryan. He says, Devin was the biggest reason the Yankees didn't win the AL East last season. Let's see here. Devin blew so many saves, it was ridiculous. Oh, 100%. It was absolutely pathetic. Give me 1 second, everybody. I just need to do something really, really quick. One second, everybody. Literally 2 seconds. Hey, food should be at the door.
Oh, okay.
All right, bye. Sorry, guys. I was having dinner delivered. I want to make sure that I got inside in time. Okay, back in. We're locked in. Ryan, thank you again for that donation. Devin was the biggest reason the Yankees didn't win the AL East last season. Devin blew so many saves. It was ridiculous. Listen, Devin had a really rough first half and a much rebounded second half, okay? What sucks about what's happening with Devin right now, though, is because not only does he look like shit, but it's also a combination of him looking terrible and him not being put in positions to succeed. I mean, let's call it how it is. Devin Williams is a closer, emphasis on closer. I can tell you in confidence, having spoken to people around the Yankees organization last year and now with the Mets this year, that part of the problem with Devin last year wasn't just getting adjusted to New York, but it was especially getting adjusted to not being in closer situations. That throws him off because he has adjusted to that role rather comfortably. And we're seeing in real time him not only struggle to adjust because of the Mets' lack of winning, but being put in circumstances that are contrary from typically going out there for a save. So do I think that he gets all the excuses in the role? No, he's pitched like shit. Let's call it how it is. Devin Williams has not looked like a good pitcher his past 3+ outings. Do I think that he will be able to rebound? I do, but nothing is going right for this Mets team right now. And now we have to point the finger at Devin again, because whether we like it or not, regardless of the lack of offense for the Mets, he played a factor into why the Mets were not able to get the job done tonight. And that really sucks to see when he's supposed to be your guy. Dave Kaplitz, $2. Was Mendoza fired yet? Not yet. Not yet, Dave. I know that you're chomping at the bit for it. I understand. Aiden with the $5 hollow. My question is, what has Stearns won? Small ball might win games, but the Dodgers hit homers. The Yankees hit homers. You need the power. Too many flats. I think the whole what has Stearns won thing reaches a moot point when you realize so many guys in the league haven't won anything until they win. Winning a World Series is a very difficult thing to do. Stearns' track record from Milwaukee spoke for itself. Even going back to his time as assistant GM with the Astros, he had a lot of success and a lot of very good track record. And the thought process and belief was, and still holds true now, I understand it hits deaf ears at the moment, given the lack of success for this team, is that you bring in someone like Dave, who grew up a diehard Mets fan from Manhattan, that would love nothing more than to serve this fan base and serve this organization. And, he's been brilliant with dealing with a limited budget because he's been in a smaller market for most of his career. How can he handle having it in a large budget? Well, again, we know that he helped land Juan Soto along with Steve Cohen, obviously. We know that he's made some big splashes for this club, but there's been a lack of consistency in how this roster has been built. It's been more to the detriment than to the benefit of the Mets. We say we prioritize defense and that we don't do nearly enough in prioritizing defense with our moves this past offseason, because maybe you put too much of your chips in one basket. They say that they have plans A through Z all the way figured out, but the drop off from plan A to plan B and C for some scenarios for the Mets was quite significant, and it was a stark contrast from the top option. So for David Stearns, who we know has really failed with a lot of acquisitions his first couple of years as Mets Pobo, this is where the pressure will now start to mount. It should start to mount with someone like Steve Cohen. Again, I don't know to what degree. I don't really want Dave out of here per se either. I've always been a believer in that vision, especially two Mets fans that want to make it work here. But, this is a results-oriented business, and the results the bad has far outweighed the good. And that's why we're here pissed off the way that we are continued every single night. Dave with the holla, thank you so much. He says, Mauricio hit 3 homers tonight. You're damn right he did. We're going to talk more about Ronnie in our next content tomorrow. Be on the lookout for it. Mike with the $5 holla, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mike. Happy to have you in here. Steven says, great member, bring the farm up. Bench these freaking losers. Well, speaking of the farm, the Mets had began the process of that. As we know, Christian Scott has been officially called up for Thursday's start, as he'll be sliding in for Senga. Senga is still going to be a starter as of now, so I'll be curious to see how the Mets go about how that's going to be obviously structured and everything. But Christian Scott will be with the Mets to start this Thursday. But who knows? The Mets will either be trying to avoid getting swept yet again, or they'll hopefully be on the cusp of trying to win a series. Hopefully it's the latter and not a continued shit show. If the Mets lose 15 straight games, we might just need to throw in the towel and call wraps on covering the team this year from a game standpoint and begin the process of going all in on prospect coverage, all in on early trade deadline talk, and dragging that shit all the way to the trade deadline. And then post-trade deadline, just talking about prospects and upsides to get excited for offseason in the following year, even though there's going to be an impending lockout. It's just, oh my God, this team, man, it's really getting difficult. It's getting really difficult. Let's see. Hyper Mario with the $5 holla. Wardy, legit, after they closed my stand early, I felt a negative vibe shift. After I left, they lose. Going tomorrow as a fan, got called off for tomorrow. Well, I hope you witnessed a victory tomorrow, my friend. For those that don't know, the guy who just donated is a great member and supporter here on the platform, so we appreciate having him in here. Thank you so much, my guy. Really, really appreciate it. We do have Wardy Day that we'll talk more about later on the show, guys. Not right now, though, because I completely understand me trying to promote an event I'm doing at Citi Field this June against the Braves is going to hit a lot of deaf ears right now because this team is playing so effing god-awful. So I completely hear it. It's not helping business. It's not helping anything at all for me. and I'm not looking forward to talking about another shit show you call a loss. But anyways, let's go ahead and do it together, because that's, again, misery loves company, right? So if there's one thing that we can come together on, it's a continuation of just how piss poor this team has been, and how us fans are kind of reaching a point of either already getting numb, or being tapped out entirely, or just kind of, cute Talladega Nights, Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do in my hands. Literally, I'm at a loss for words at this point. I really do not know. Thank you so much, Aiden, with the $10 holla. Any other donations sent from this point on, I will get to after we break down this ball game. So thank you so much in advance to anyone that sends them. They're never asked, but they're always appreciated. I will get to them. I just may not get to them right away, just as an FYI. Aiden Jorge, $10 holla, says, "Hey, Wardy, explain to me how this isn't Mendy's fault." Oh, there's definitely things that are Mendoza's fault. But you have to realize that this team still needs to do something offensively. Regardless of maybe you not liking the lap configuration today or whatever the case may be, the boys need a hit, okay? And they only had 4 effing hits today to the Twins 6, okay? Their incompetence with their continued lackadaisical at-bats is a problem in itself. Is Mendoza at fault for not doing a better job in getting this team together and more locked in and more unison, having a better identity? Yes, you can hold him accountable there. And yes, you can also hold him accountable for, the circumstance with, putting Devin Williams in a tied ball game. I understand that. The thought process was putting your best pitcher out there in a tied game to hopefully try to win it in a walk-off fashion in the 9th. I didn't think that was a terrible decision by Mendoza there transparently, but the execution obviously sucked because we saw Devin Williams roll over and die. But this comes down to not just Devin Williams not getting the job done again. It's also because Devin Williams has not been in a closer situation over 2 weeks. It's also because this offense, again, has been so unbelievably piss poor in the consistency, arguably the worst offense in baseball this season. Again, we can sit here and we can nitpick certain decisions, sure, but it comes down to this. There is enough to look at with Carlos Mendoza and say that he should be part of with for various decisions alone, and more than anything, a lack of unity, a lack of winning with this club right now, okay? What happened with Devin Williams tonight, I think it's small versus the greater issues with Mendoza and this club right now, transparently. I really do. Let's get into this, everybody, because like I said, I'm so excited, can't you tell? In a day where Nolan McLean literally is just absolutely masterful, and this is wasted the way that is. It makes me lose my effing mind. It really does. Like, it's so hard to watch baseball like this. It is so difficult to watch baseball like this. I feel for him so much. We're just wasting so much masterclass energy. And you know how this works. As soon as the Mets find a consistency this year, God forbid something's going to go awry with Nolan, or the Mets are not going to have that consistency with their pitching staff to the same degree, because they're not allowed to have effing nice things. It feels more and more abundantly clear that the Mets clearly sold their soul to the devil for 86, especially in the manner that the Mets won 86 in such a chaotic but bananas and entertaining way. I'm very convinced. It reminds me heavily of a South Park episode where it was about someone getting fame or a team winning a championship, one of those two things. And literally, like, their entire town was cursed because they sold their soul. That's really what it's starting to feel like with the Mets on a yearly basis. And I wish I was saying that. I'm not fully kidding. Dave with the $2 holla says, "What are the new hitting coaches doing?" Not enough, unfortunately. I like Troy Snicker I like Jeff Albert, but neither of the two are doing anything that's moving the needle right now from an offensive standpoint at the moment. It's a shit show. Byron Buxton struck out, Larnach struck out, and then Josh Bell with a ground out, a 1-2-3, what back-to-back beautiful strikeouts for Nolan McLean, who, like I said, was a stud tonight. We'll get some more donations here shortly, everybody. We then seen the bottom of the first, Simeon to Lindor to Robert, 1-2-3. Nothing happens there. And then we're onward as Simone Wood Richardson, the former New York Mets prospect who was traded for Marcus Simeon, not Marcus Simeon, for Marcus Stroman. Remember him. And then he was traded as part of the, I want to say, Jose Barrios trade between the Twins and the Blue Jays. He's been a starter the past couple years for them, and he wasn't fantastic, but also not terrible for the Twins today either. We get to the second 1-2-3 with the Twins, and for the Mets, we see a single for Bo Bichette, his only hit of the day, and then Alvarez and Beatty strike out back-to-back, because of course they do. And the third, striking out the side, was Nolan McLean in a dominant fashion. First, he gets Wallner there on a four-seam fastball that was dotted, caught a lot of plate, but it got him nonetheless. Then it's the changeup way out of the zone on Royce Lewis, which is a big strikeout. Royce is a great hitter when healthy. And then the sinker inside got Lee silly for a nice 1-2-3. In the bottom of third, we would then see Mark Vientos with a leadoff knock. Benj makes it a force out. Benj would go now 6 for 6 with stolen bases this season, so you like that from Carson, but still need more consistency there. Simeon gets on with a walk the only time he gets on base today, and then Francisco Lindor gets all that one. Lindor absolutely demolishes a middle four seam, and this is a commonality with Lindor's big hits. Let's not forget this, everybody. Okay, it's great to see the home runs, but the 2 home runs that Lindor have hit this season were both middle pitches, like actual meatballs. He should be serving them up. Literally 410, 108 off the bat. That was a 6-pitch at bat that got a four seam, way too much plate. 93, literally down the dick. Easiest home run you could hit. Lindor made him pay. Rightfully so. Francisco was amped up rounding the bases, and then Robert and Bichette would go out on back-to-back pop-outs in the infield, because of course they did, and that does it for the third. And the fourth, 1, 2, 3 for McLean, because he's a stud. Then we see Beatty with a 2-out hit, Vientos with a walk, and then Carson Benj with a fly out, and that does it for the inning. Mets stranded pair. And the fifth, 1, 2, 3 yet again, this time with a strikeout that we see from McLean. Then we see bottom of the fifth. It is Francisco Lindor with a 1-out walk, and then Bichette grounds into the force out, and that does it there for the inning. In the sixth, we would see a single for Wallner, back-to-back outs, including a strikeout on, Brooks Lee, and then sadly for Noel McLean, he threw a cutter upstairs to a really damn good hitter. Like I said, one of the better players in Major League Baseball when healthy. There's a reason why I've advocated a trade for this guy since 2021. I will always be a fan of his. It sucks to see him do this. But again, good players do well against other really good players. Byron Buxton smacks one off the cutter, 101 off the bat for his 4th home run of the year. That makes it a 1-run ball game. Then we see Larnach with a single and then a ground out on Bell, and that does it, but not before it becomes a 1-run deficit for Minnesota against Noel McLean and the New York Mets. Luis Torrens with a strikeout to begin. They're the bottom of the 6th, a ground out for Alvarez, and then Tyrone Taylor comes in a pinch hit for Brett Beatty, and he promptly strikes out swinging. And the 7th, Ryan Jeffers is called out on strikes. Cody Clemens with the double, and then unfortunately we would see Keishel there with a single that would tie the ball game, because that was a sweeper that Hahn caught way too much plate, sadly. Instead of it going down and away, it essentially went middle there, and he got just enough of it to make it a tie ball game. Then after he would steal his 5th bag of the year and gets a second, Walter would ground out, getting the runner to third, and Royce Lewis would fly out after Huascar Brosman comes in, and that does it for Noel McLean's final line. We're going to break down McLean's masterful day in a second, because that deserves to be appreciated, even though there's nothing else to really appreciate about this ball game. I'm going to get to my breakdown here shortly, but I want to hear from you Mets fans watching live, to everyone watching on replay. How would you grade Noel McLean's final line tonight, everybody, on a scale of 1 to 10? Spam in the live chat and let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for exactly that. As we continue on here, we get into Mark Vientos flies out. Then we see Benj and Simeon do nothing. Simeon, that was a really bad at-bat too. The fact that he struck out on a sinker right down the dick was like, what the hell are we doing here, Marcus? Not helping in the leadoff. And the 8th inning, we would see a 1, 2, 3 with a pair of strikeouts back-to-back for Huascar Brosman. And then the Mets promptly go down 1, 2, 3 with a Lindor strikeout to begin the inning. And the 9th, Devin Williams walks Josh Bell on 4 pitches pathetically. Then we see James Atman come in and then steal second base. Automatic runner in second. Ryan Jeffers gets on with a walk because Devin Williams is shaking in his boots for Cody Clemens, who of course gets on with a bunt single. Mark Vientos charges a throw. It is not there in time. Vientos charged it, but he has to realize that Clemens is bolting down the line. Everyone's safe. Here's Keishel, who tied the ball game, as is for the Twins already in this ball game against McLean, and he gets a 4-seam fastball that catches way too much plate, gets just enough, and that makes it a 4-3 Minnesota Twins lead. After it becomes 4-3, a walk is, of course, walked to drive in a run. That makes it 5-3. Devin Williams' day is done, and then Austin Warren says, F this shit, I'm going to step up just like MJ Melendez has. What does MJ Melendez and Austin Warren have in common? Stepping up, getting big immediate results, because they haven't been part of this sorry shit show you call a ball club. They haven't been part of the lack of success. They've been in the minor leagues. They've been just grinding to get a roster spot, and they're pitching like they actually effing care. You get a big strikeout there away on the 4-seam. Never even touched the zone on Royce Lewis, but Royce was swinging at literally everything. Then Brooks Lee comes in, and he gets a huge strikeout there on the curveball way down and out of the zone on Lee. And then Byron Buxton, again, the lethal hitter, that is Byron. He gets him on the sweeper, beautifully placed, something that we couldn't see Noel McLean do against Buxton, right? You want that sweeper to go down, against Alishal. You want that sweeper to go down and away out of the zone. That actually happened with Austin Warren. Beautifully placed there, got him to bite. Striking out the side is Austin Warren in his Mets season debut. Warren looking fantastic, having every Mets fan amped up there to the select few that were there at the stadium. I did see my guys, Hector, I believe from, was it Washington Heights? I think that's along the lines of his name on X, and also my guy, Master Flip. You guys know who they are in the Mets community. I hope they're doing well. I saw them on the broadcast today at the Mets game. That was cool. And then Terrence, Alvarez, and Tyrone Taylor roll over 1, 2, 3. And that's the ball game, everybody. So now let's talk here briefly on what was at least the one positive tonight before I talk more on the negatives and get into the donations. And that was Mr. Noel McLean. McLean was masterful. Okay, he had the sinker that he threw 45% of the time, was sitting right around 95 on this one, and had 9,100 on the RPMs. The sweeper, which he threw 17% of the time, had sitting 85 and 3,000 RPMs. Changeup 15% of the time, right around 88, and also had 1,300 RPMs. Four-seam fastball that we saw 11% of the time, sitting 97 on the gun. He had 2,400 RPMs there with the four-seam fastball. The curveball that he threw 6% of the time, sat 81 miles per hour, had 3,100 to 3,200 RPMs, topped out 33 or so. The cutter, 5% of the arsenal, sat 91, and that had 2,500 RPMs. So for the most part, he was right around his averages for the year at Noel McLean. No one gets an easy, without hesitation, 8 out of 10 from me today. Okay, he gave up 3 runs. Okay, he gave up one bat, not even a terrible pitch, just to a really good hitter in Byron Buxton. And then you could argue he had one bad pitch today, which was that sweeper that just hung a little too much, in his final inning of work in the 7th inning. But McLean has been one of the few certainties for this New York Mets team. Okay, he deserves a high grade. He gets an easy 8 out of 10 from me. I've been loving every single thing about him, and it pisses me off to no end, and I will continue to repeat this, that the New York Mets have not been able to do a better job with Noel McLean dominating early this season. They're wasting away all these early magical starts, and it is truly disgusting to see, and no other way to put it. Mets pitching staff collectively today, okay, because they gave up a total of 5 earned runs that we saw in the 9 innings. The collective Mets pitching staff, because Devin Williams did not get the job done today, I'm going to give the collective Mets pitching staff a 6 out of 10 because Devin Williams was the only problem for the Mets pitching-wise today. So I don't want to give them a terrible grade just because of one bad guy, because sadly that bad guy, the bad outweighed the good here because the offense did absolutely nothing. And speaking of this absolutely disaster, this disaster class that you call New York Mets offense, let's break it down. Carson Benja, 0 for 3, .43 average, 435. Actually, my apologies rather. That is from the Cubs lineup the other day. Let me pull up now the lineup that happened against the Minnesota Twins, because of course, even while the Twins don't have Harrison Bader anymore, like they did last year, the Twins are still getting wins against the New York Mets. Oh my God. Twins were 11-11 entering tonight's game, if I'm not mistaken. Marcus Semien, 0 for 3 with a run scored and a walk. 225 average, 592 OPS. Francisco Lindor, 1 home run, 3 RBIs. 209 average, 642 OPS. Luis Robert, 0 for 4, 243 average, 700 OPS. Bo Bichette, 1 for 4, 219 average, 536 OPS. MJ Melendez, 0 for 2, 313 average, over 1,000 OPS. Luis Torrens, 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts, 240 average, 560 OPS. Francisco Alvarez at catcher, 0 for 4, 250 average, 824 OPS. Why the hell is Hayden Senger on this bench if we're not even utilizing him the way that they were thinking about it? Incompetence yet again, malpractice 101. Brett Beatty, 1 for 2. 209 average, 498 OPS. Tyrone Taylor, 0 for 2, 200 average, 559 OPS. Mark Vientos, 1 for 2, 232 average, 642 OPS. Carson Benja, 0 for 3 with a run scored, 136 average, 416 OPS. The Mets had an expected batting average of 157. That was still somehow, some way, 5 points lower than the Minnesota Twins team that had a 167 expected batting average. So 167 and 157. One thing is certain, this Mets team is garbage, okay? So they lost 12 straight. We're now 9 games below 500. If I take a glance at the standings right now, I know it's early, but I'm probably going to vomit. So let's go ahead and do it just because, again, we love to make things worse for ourselves than what they otherwise need to be. Let's do just a little early peek into the standings. Let's see how bad it is already. Okay, so the Atlanta Braves are 16-8. The New York Mets are 7-16. The Mets are 8.5 games back of first place and 7 back of the final wild card spot. Only team in baseball on a 12-game losing streak. Love to see it. Love to see it, guys. Doesn't that just make you so excited as a Mets fan to hear those things? Seriously. And Mickey, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. I really do. Let's get to Carlos Mendoza's post-game pressers, because I know that you guys are going to love to hear this. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to more donations. We're going to cut things off for replay viewers, and then we'll wrap up the show here sooner rather than later. My God, this team. This team. All I can do is laugh. All I can do is scream. All I can do is kick and scream and cry. Or I can be numb. It depends. It depends on the day. Here's Devin Williams talking about his current struggles.
A bunch of players have said, like, no one is taking this harder than you guys in this room. I mean, how hard has this stretch been when you look back at the past couple of weeks and everything that's gone on? Like, how difficult is it as a player to go through this?
Yeah, man, it's tough, man. I don't know. I've never been a part of something like this, you know.
Of course.
I think we just need to get the one win out of the way, and I think everything else will take care of itself. But it's obviously.
And I know you say that you've never been through something like this, and that you feel like just getting the one will help to change things. Everybody says, you know, as professionals, you just come in, past in the past. Each day is a new day, but is it difficult as these games go on to not think about what's going on?
I mean, every day is a new day, right? We have
That answer, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to speak for Devin, but if I'm reading between the lines, it feels like he answered it with that hesitation, because Steve asked him pretty much point blank, you know, is this something that dwells on you that you think of as the game is going on and stuff like that? And the answer to some of these players, maybe not all, but at least some, has to be yes. McClain, of course, said he wanted to go a little bit longer in his outings. You know, he's always going to want to go longer. He's a stud. We know that. Now the Mendy pressers. Buckle up. Here we go.
Carlos, what have you seen from Devin over these last 3 outings now?
Today,
Also, guys, if the volume isn't to your liking, you got to turn it up yourselves. This is SNY's doing, not me. My volume's all the way up.
command, you know, obviously getting behind hitters, not able to execute, and then once you start walking people, you're on dangerous territory there. He's got to come back in the zone, and then when he's getting behind, good hitters are going to make him pay. But I think overall today, just the walks kind of hurt him there.
In the way that Nolan was cruising, just, you know, how much of a kind of a shock is it that you're sitting here now with your 12th consecutive loss?
Sucks. It sucks because you're feeling good, especially with the way the game was developing there. You watch Nolan kind of dominating pretty much a whole lineup there for the first 5 innings. He left that cutter to box him, but you still feel good about your chances, especially how Lindor sets the tone there with a 3-run homer. You feel like you're getting some momentum. But then after that, we couldn't do anything else.
With the 3-0 lead in the way that
not expecting Soto's return to do too much. You know, you can't put it all on him. But do you think that the offense relies too much on him? I mean, have you thought over his absence?
I don't think
his
so.
absence would be this stark?
No, I didn't think we were gonna be having that, that much hard time scoring runs without him. But again, like I said it before the game, it's hard to put a lot on Soto. But it's gonna be good to have him in the lineup tomorrow.
Carlos, you talked before the game about not expecting Soto's return.
All right, Mets fans. So that's all from Mendoza's presser today. Again, just more than normal stuff. It's interesting. He didn't look as I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but just from those clips, he didn't seem as. Sorry, I didn't play that. He didn't look as deflated. I wonder if he felt somewhat encouraged from something today. You know, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Maybe just me. He didn't look like he was as deflated as he was after what was happening in that Cubs series. You guys let me know if you feel the same or different. Let's get to some donations. Now let's get into what's next here. Dave Kaplitz, thank you so much. More than new hitting coach is doing. Not enough, Dave. That's what, unfortunately. Deuce with the $2 haul. Thank you so much. Decisions by Mendoza is worse than Hernandez umping. I know that's saying a lot right now. Day Needle, thank you so much for becoming a member, my friend. I appreciate that. Be on the lookout. We're going to have our updated member emojis here very soon. Alfredo with the $2 Clifford knocking on the door. Yep, he absolutely is. He 100% is right now. I mean, a lot of guys are knocking on the door. I think AJ Ewing is to a degree knocking on the door with the way that he continues to dominate in AA. And he's one of these guys I don't think is going to need much time in Syracuse to make an impact at the major league level. But my question is there a world where someone like Nick Morabito or AJ Ewing makes more of an immediate impact this season than Carson Benj before Carson really figures it all out? That's kind of my question, because the Mets have now entered a territory where they really can't let Carson be close to a non-factor, with the exception of when he steals a bag when he gets on base, because he really has been a non-factor of not just a net negative offensively, close to a month into the season now. With the continued woes the team is having, I wonder how much longer of a leash are they going to give that there before considering someone else, or going a different route, or, maybe having it be more of a, MJ Melendez as a priority there in the time being, and having Juan Soto back so you can have MJ in one quarter, Juan in the other, and Robert in center. That's something that could be had. But without Polanco, you're still going to want a bit more, oomph there when it comes to versatility. So it's just something I'm currently thinking on the front of Benj, because I don't think he's been playing terrible, but he still has looked clearly outmatched. And it was one thing to kind of let it happen the first couple of weeks when it wasn't really impacting the Mets much, but now it feels like it could be impacting them a bit more just because you're having such bad losing all around. Like, everyone is not clicking at the same time, and that's a really, really bad thing to be happening. So that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to what should the Mets do there. You guys can let me know if you feel the same or different. But I think the final thing I need to say here before I wrap up the show, because I'm going to be wrapping up here in just a moment, is the following. Make sure that you're following along, because no matter what, no matter how good, no matter how bad, no matter how dreadful, no matter how electric, maybe somehow, some way, this team could be, we're going to be covering it every step of the way this year. And if things get so bad where the season is essentially already done, the way that it appears right now, but if it really becomes abundantly clear throughout this homestand, what we have all continued to see will not stop, then we will quickly pivot and transition this year into talking Mets-related discussions, but not just on game turnout, because the whole ranting and being disgusted with them on a nightly outcome is not something that is going to last long. It's going to hit deaf ears at some point, just like it did last year. So thank you all so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. You guys make sure to have a fantastic rest of your day, night, evening, whenever you're watching this. I really appreciate it. And be on the lookout. I'll answer a lot more questions and comments for you guys tomorrow evening. Tonight, this one just hits home, and I need to step away. I'm genuinely pissed off. Like, this one actually probably bothered me. One of the more this loss isn't the worst loss for the season for me, but it's bothered me. It's up there as one of the games that's bothered me most early on. Definitely sucks. And no, I'm not going to cry when I sign off, Ralph. There's no need in doing that. Just, if anything, take a big sigh of relief and just try to enjoy my evening without thinking about them. That's kind of where I'm at, if I'm being completely honest with you. But thank you guys again. Broken Jester, JTB, great members, your beauties. Have a great night. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets. Peace out, everybody. Try to get some sleep. Try to enjoy yourself.